Everyone. Hello, good evening, everyone. I'm Shantanu, and it's a pleasure to be your anchor for this evening. I warmly welcome to all of you to today's session on 2nd May 2026, organized by Talking Films Online. For those joining us for the first time, let me briefly introduce the platform. Talking Films Online is an online initiative founded and led by Professor Nikhila and Dr. Geeta Vishwanath. What began 5 years ago as their vision has grown into a vibrant space dedicated to preserving human connection through cinema. The platform thrives on the support of interns, volunteers, and the many filmmakers and scholars who have joined us over the years. We meet every Saturday at 9 p.m. Indian Standard Time. Members are encouraged to watch and reflect on the selected film at their own pace before coming together for a collective discussion. Over time, we have had the privilege of engaging with several eminent personalities from the world of cinema. At its core, Talking Films Online is a space that celebrates critical engagement with film, whether through its narrative, techniques, form, music, or its intersection with other literary devices across genre, languages, and cultures. In addition to our weekly discussions, we organize a short filmmaking competition and an in person international seminar every year. Tonight, we are delighted to have Sambartha Sahil with us, who will lead the discussion on the Hindi film Ikkis, directed by Sriram Raghavan. Sambartha is a teacher of screenplay writing closely associated with the Film and Television Institute of India's Open Learning. He is an alumnus of FTII and JNU and also worked briefly as a journalist for The Hindu, a recipient of the Charles Wallace India Trust Fellowship, Prabhas Joshi Media Fellowship, and Karnataka Sahitya Academy Travel Fellowship. Sambartha has worked closely with filmmakers like Sri Prakash, Aranya Kasaravalli, P.N. Ramachandra, and Anadi Atle. And his translation of the poetry collection of Nagraj Manjule, Jachinta Karketta, and Jogesh Moitra into Kannada have been published, and his translation of Binod Kumar Shukla and Manoj Bugati is in progress. Balkatta, a fortnightly column Sambartha wrote for Kannada Prabha, earned him popularity and the trust of the Kannada speaking world as a writer with a sharp eye. Deccan Herald recognized him as a changemaker in the year 2023. We are honored to have with us Mr. Mukesh Khetrapal, the younger brother of 2nd Lieutenant Arun Khetrapal, on whose life the film Ikkis is based. And of course, it's a special privilege to welcome director Sriram Raghavan, whose work continues to shape contemporary Indian cinema with its distinctive narrative craft and cinematic precision. We are all eagerly looking forward to the discussion ahead. Without taking any time, I now invite Sambartha Sahil to begin the session. The stage is all yours, sir.
Thank you, Shantanu, for the lovely introduction. Thank you, Priya, for organizing those. I know, most of you actually are excited because Sriram Raghavan is going to be here, Mukesh Katrapal is going to be here, but they're not yet here. So till then, we will have to actually kind of bear with my over passionate self. But I'm feeling slightly, underconfident today or a bit nervous today for primarily two reasons, other than in the presence of Sriram Raghavan and Mukesh Ketrapal, who might join us any time. And if you could forgive us beforehand, for your indulgence, because, okay, yeah, I've not been keeping well, so like, I can't actually kind of raise my voice beyond a point. That's one of the reasons, and it's also one of the reasons why I've not been, I don't think I've been able to stitch my thoughts well in the notes that I have prepared. So, but because I have kind of loved this film a lot, and I've spoken about this a lot with friends, and chewed people's brain, endlessly about this film, and I also actually kind of watched the film four times in the theater. I mean, in the 10 days that it ran in Manipal, I went and watched it four times. So I know I can actually kind of gather some thoughts and actually kind of put it together over here. So with that, actually kind of, let me, I must actually kind of tell you what was uh, I mean, in the recent past, I mean, I have stopped watching war films coming from India primarily because I mean it doesn't actually kind of excite me. It doesn't have any insight. It's actually kind of slightly nauseating to me. So when the film Ikkis poster thing, I mean, I saw for the first time, I was wondering, okay, one more kind of thing. But what really caught my attention was it was Sriram Raghavan's film. And I was like, what is Sriram Raghavan doing in this particular genre? I mean, the person who made a Hasina 3, then, I mean, Agent Vinod, Andhadhun, Merry Christmas, which I, mean, all these films which I actually kind of really like. But this doesn't seem to be the genre in which Sriram Raghavan sir works. So I was quite intrigued and I went to watch it on the first day itself, first day, first show, and it was Jan 1st. And I still remember halfway through the film, I was like, if this is how this year is going to be, then it's going to be a really good new year. And I actually kind of wished myself a happy new year. But the once I actually kind of walked out of the film, uh, there were, one of the first things that actually kind of came out of my mouth is like, where is Sri Ram Raghavan? I need to hug him. Uh, I actually, I mean, if the next time, anytime that I meet Sriram sir in person, the first thing I'm going to do, I'm go hug him for making Ikkis, because Ikkis felt like a warm hug to me. Especially, I mean, in the times that we are living in, where actually, I mean, the film also kind of, I mean, there was a slightly, I mean, the time or Samay must have actually kind of chuckled seeing the Ikkis release 2 weeks before Border 2 and a month after Dhurandhar. All chest thumping, jingoistic films. In between that, you have an Ikkis which actually kind of comes as releases in the theater, and it's a kind of a lesson for resistance and also on how to actually kind of puncture the dominant discourse. So when Ikkis tells the story of Arun Khetrapal, a war veteran who got martyred in the 1971 war. But that's not just about Ikkis. I mean, though it's actually kind of, I mean, tells the story of, I mean, primarily of the Arun Khetrapal. It also very interestingly tells the story of Nisar. Nisar is a soldier from the Pakistani army who killed Arun Khetrapal. I mean, in the battlefield. And very interestingly, in 2001, when Arun Khetrapal's father, Madan Khetrapal, goes to Pakistan, he's hosted by Nisar, and Nisar actually kind of confesses to him, saying that, hey, I was the one who killed your son. So it's this thread which actually kind of, I mean, Sriram Raghavan picks up to tell the story. It's a war film which is anti-war. And I'm largely going to actually kind of, focus my presentation on how this film actually kind of, while speaking of war, still it actually kind of turns it into an anti-war film. That's my focus largely going to be. And since I'm a student of screenwriting, I'm going to largely look at the how in the scripting itself, the whole the vision of the film or the anti-war vision of the film has actually kind of been scripted into the film. So let me begin by saying that, see, I mean, in screenwriting vocabulary, we actually kind of make a distinction between hero, main character, and protagonist. So hero is someone who actually the audiences root for. I mean, who we want to win. And main character is the person whose the story is about. And protagonist is the character who undergoes a transformation, who has a character arc. In that sense, I mean, when we look at Ikkis, the construction of Ikkis, uh, Arun Khetrapal becomes the protagonist and the hero. I mean, in the sense, it's for Arun Khetrapal that we root as audience. And it's his character which undergoes a transformation. And I talked about the transformation also and what that actually kind of tells us about, the character also and what about the film as well. But the main character of the film, whose story is it actually? It's actually, we are I mean, Arun Khetarpal's story is actually in the past. It's actually kind of comes in the flashback. I mean, both the timelines of 1971, where he's entering the war, getting into the battlefield, and also the narrative thread, I mean, of actually his love affair with Kiran. I mean, which is allegedly a fictitious story, which is not a real life story. But I mean, why, how it actually kind of plays a role in the film, I'll say that. So, but the main heart of the story is actually Nisar wanting to tell Madan Khetarpal about he being the one who killed Arun Khetarpal in the battlefield and having to actually kind of, I mean, what is I mean, release the guilt that he's actually carrying in his chest for 30 years. So that's, I mean, he's the main character who we actually kind of follow. And it's only in that journey where he wants to actually kind of confess to Madan Khetarpal that the entire story or actually of Arun Khetarpal unfolds. And within that, the story of Kiran and his love affair actually kind of unfolds. So the and so here what we realize is that so it's not just Arun Khetarpal who's at the center of the story, but also Nisar. Okay, since these are the what's I mean, the main character and the hero, they are actually at the center. So in for my own classes, actually, I've developed a small theory of okay, I mean, concentric circle of characters. So what we actually kind of do over there is I mean, we have concentric circles and we actually kind of place the central characters in the center. And they occupy the most, I mean, the maximum number of time and space in the film. So in this particular film, I mean, the characters who we place in the center of the concentric circles, is Nisar and Arun Khetarpal. And of course, Madan comes slightly, I mean, I mean, the next in line, the Madan Khetarpal, the father of Arun Khetarpal. So what's happening? So the politics of Ikkis begins with the film actually kind of centering these two characters at the center. Uh, because I mean, one is the one is actually kind of Arun Khetarpal, who bravely fought the 1971 war and got martyred, and also Nisar, who killed Arun Khetarpal, and he actually kind of is carrying the guilt of actually kind of having killed Arun, and also, I mean, he carries a great admiration for the bravery of Arun. So it's not just the martyr who is at the center of the film, but also the one who was killed. And that actually kind of, I mean, helps the storyteller actually kind of weave the story and build a certain vision of the film. Which, if I mean, if the story actually kind of had to choose only one particular of the two, either Nisar or what to say, I mean, Arun, then probably the vision wouldn't have actually kind of what to say, I mean, it wouldn't have actually kind of come through. So, and also in placing these two characters at the center, it's not placing these two as two brave people. Of course, there is bravery and there is courage and there is a lot of what's I mean, patriotism in both the characters. But even while actually kind of, I mean, bringing them at the center, it's not putting bravery versus bravery. And and it doesn't actually kind of make it only a story of courage. It doesn't make it a story only of a of what's I mean of I mean the what's I mean the passion of war. So let's actually kind of look what are the other ingredients which actually kind of go into making these characters in the particular in this film and those journeys. So what makes the question would be what makes the character of Arun brave in this particular film? Of course, I mean there is patriotism, there is what to say, I mean there is patriotism and love for the country over there. But also, I mean, there is an inherent, I mean, yeah, of course, there is an inherent Josh in him, which actually kind of is recognized by Hanut when he actually kind of tells Sagat also saying that इनमें जोश बहुत है इसलिए इनका थोड़ा ख्याल रखिएगा. So there is that also, but the story of Arun Khetarpal is also layered with the story of love. And that is a very interesting element which actually kind of helps the story to actually kind of bring out a certain what's the vision to the film. That he's not just a brave soldier, but he's also a lover boy. And his somewhere actually kind of his bravery is also actually kind of fueled by love. And I'll come to that part also a bit later. So what's this doing? That it's not actually kind of only foregrounding bravery or the courage of Arun Khetarpal, the character. It's also actually kind of bringing in the ingredient of love and actually kind of mixing that what's an ingredient with the ingredient of patriotism and courage. And there is also the character of Nisar. Nisar is also a brave character. No less to Arun Khetrapal in one sense in the film. Because when they are about to enter the war, we see actually kind of while even his own senior is actually kind of hesitating to actually kind of take a step that particular moment. Nisar actually kind of says that, okay, man, we need not wait till the first ray of the sunlight. We should attack right now. Which means he's someone who's willing to take risk. He's brave. कुछ कमी नहीं है उसमें. But but his story is not just a story of bravery. It's actually about the guilt that he carries. So while Arun's story is about, I mean, how love fuels his bravery and courage and his final decision, which actually kind of earns him a martyrdom and all of that in the film. Nisar's story is actually of bravery and what it actually kind of finally actually kind of leaves him with. A huge sense of guilt, which is actually kind of centered to his actually kind of story as we see in the film. So the film operates in three timelines. One is the 2001, where actually Arun Khetrapal's father, Madan Khetrapal, a lovely role by Dharmendra. It's so nice to see him also. It's such a lovely character, and it's his last appearance on screen also. So Madan going to Pakistan for a college reunion and Nisar being his host. That's the 2001 timeline that we see. Um, and then there's the timeline of 1971, where Arun is fighting bravely and getting martyred in the battlefield. And there is another timeline, which is actually slightly before 1971, where actually the love between Arun and Kiran actually blossom and it breaks. Uh, so the film operates in these three timelines and it actually kind of intertwines. It actually kind of, one actually kind of getting entangled with the other, and that plays a impact as to how the film's impact lays on us. Uh, so Arun's dream, as we see, in the 1971 timeline, we realize because of this intertwining of these three timelines, realize that Arun's dream is not just to win the war and play golf in Lahore once they actually kind of win the war, but it's also to win the love of Kiran back. It's also to reconcile with Kiran. That's one of the things which actually kind of motivates him. And we see that, when he actually kind of, when there's a call for ceasefire, um, Arun is slightly disappointed in the film because he's like, एक भी गोली नहीं चलाई और जंग खत्म हुआ क्या बहादुरी. मतलब मर्दों वाला कुछ काम नहीं किया. So somewhere actually kind of there is that his dream is to actually kind of through a certain performance in the war to actually kind of win the love of Kiran back and to reconcile with her. And his dream and desire to reconcile remains incomplete, and that remains incomplete because of war itself. So that's one thread where we see actually kind of we see more than actually the bravery of Arun Khetrapal, which we see. It's with all with all dignity, it's actually kind of shown with all respect. But also we see that a certain what motivated him to actually kind of what actually kind of give the final nudge to him to actually kind of take that brave step in the warfield was love, and that reunion with that love actually kind of remains unfulfilled. So in that sense, we see the cost of war, the price paid because of war, and this is a recurring thing. And because we also see that loss is experienced even by Madan. Madan, the father, actually kind of, he's not going around Pakistan saying that my son is a brave soldier. He's carrying this pain of, okay, having lost his son. So again, it's actually the pain which actually kind of is foregrounded, not the pride in the film. And it's also the same with Nisar. Nisar, one, he has great admiration for Arun Khetrapal and his, the way he fought in the battlefield. But finally, Nisar has killed, or I say resisted, the Indian army coming forward in that particular moment. Arun Khetrapal, he stops Arun Khetrapal over there. And he's also not carrying that pride कि तो मैंने ऐसे बहादुर इंसान को रोक दिया वहां मैदान जंग में. he's carrying guilt of actually kind of, I mean, having killed this person. And again, here it's actually, I mean, because of the war. So constantly what is getting foregrounded with the bravery of all these people is the price that people have to pay for war. And that's something which actually keeps coming again and again in the film. Hence, it actually kind of becomes an anti-war film because as much as we see the bravery of these characters, we also see the price that is being paid. And not just these three main characters, even a very peripheral character like Jahangir, who comes in. I mean, the one who has lost his leg in the battlefield and who kind of pressurizes his actually neighbors to throw out Madan Ketrapal because I mean दुश्मन को बिरयानी खिला रहा है. And even he has actually kind of paid the price for a war. And it's so, I mean, even that character is so well done, where actually kind of, I mean, uh, he is someone who actually kind of, I mean, is carrying not just, I mean, the trauma of, I mean, having lost his leg, but also the rage that he actually kind of carries. It's something which actually kind of dehumanizes him. Not just, I mean, it has not just actually kind of paralyzed him. The rage in him, which is actually kind of not opening up to any kind of warmth or any other thought, is actually kind of dehumanizing him. Even that actually kind of comes across as as an effect of, I mean, of war. So all of these actually kind of makes these characters come across as humans who have a life before and after war, where they also have they also live like human beings with very much human desire and despair. Because Arun Khetrapal has a love story happening before the war, and he wants to reunite with his lover after the war, and also, Madan actually kind of lives with the loss of a son. Jahangir lives with the loss of his leg and loss of a certain tenderness or any actually kind of human touch to him. Uh, I'll elaborate that about that later also. And also, I mean, even Nisar, who, I mean, even after actually kind of, killing, stopping the brave soldier who he admires, still he's not able to actually kind of, I mean, live a peaceful life. I mean, he's living with guilt. Madan is living with loss. And Arun Khetrapal had to actually kind of give away his life without actually kind of, I mean, reuniting with his love. All because of the war itself. And last month when I actually kind of met Mukesh Khetrapal, he's a very nice host to me and a friend of mine who's also here, Saloni, who accompanied me. So when we went, I mean, he said, I mean, he described his brother Arun Khetrapal in a very beautiful way. He said, I mean, he was a iron-handed man with velvet gloves. Which actually kind of shows the strength and also the softness of the man that he was. Probably, I mean, with a pulse also. I mean, it's iron-handed, yes, but there's a pulse also, which you can feel the heartbeat of the character. So now let's actually kind of look at, I mean, how this character has been sketched and written by Sriram Raghavan and his team. So there is the one of the first things which we actually kind of see in the film is where actually he kind of very, I mean, tenderly goes and asks these girls for a date, and then they actually kind of meet, and then they a love blossoms between them. And then she challenges him. I mean, if Foxtrot can come in the top five, then probably you will have a gift. So he takes up this challenge. And again, see what is making him take up this challenge? It's love. It's not कि I mean हमको I mean it's not a तीर मारना है पहाड़ तोड़ना है I mean not these kind of what to say I mean which actually kind of ideas which is actually kind of motivating him. It's actually the idea of love. I mean there is someone who is actually kind of who he loves, and that subject of love is actually kind of asking, can you talk? And he accepts this challenge, and he not just does that, he also actually kind of motivates this entire team to actually kind of work hard, work extra. And the humanness of the character also comes through when he actually kind of plays up this strategy of punishing Dingra so that actually kind of others can actually kind of fall in line. So he punishes Dingra. I mean, it's a play that they enact. It's that he's as if Dingra is protesting and Dingra is punished. And when Dingra is made to actually go through the Srinagar fort, Arun Khetrapal also runs with him with the bag of sand. So and he Dingra says, "हम आपको आने की जरूरत नहीं थी," but he says, "नहीं, सांस बचा के रख, बहुत देर दौड़ना है." It again actually kind of shows the human side of Arun Khetrapal. So Arun Khetrapal's character also is not sketched completely as this, what some 56-inch chest person or something. He's constantly being, presented to us as human, which makes the entire the laws also feel very human laws to us. And also, there is a certain notorious side to Arun Khetrapal also, where he actually kind of fakes being sick to escape the boxing championship. And then finally, of course, that other, the character who wins the boxing game, and then they come to celebrate, and then they're like, "But tu to bimar tha na." And following that particular scene, we first see one of the important character trait of Arun Ketrapal, which is going to change in the course of the film. So, when they say that, okay, Tuto Bimar Tana, he runs up because, okay, when his friends may actually kind of beat him up. And as he's running, they come across one of the seniors, officers. And immediately the playfulness actually vanishes, and they all actually kind of stand stiff, and they actually kind of salute the officer saying, Jai Hind sir, Jai Hind sir, Jai Hind sir. So it actually kind of underlines the what to say, the rule abiding and order following soldier that Arun Ketrapal is, and all, the rest of them are also all there. And once they win the championship, Foxtrot wins the championship, they're celebrating, and Arun Khetrapal, the character, does not actually kind of take part in it. And his reason for it is that Daru is not allowed. Again, this is this is against the rules of the system. And even when actually kind of he complains about it to the officials, he says they broke the rule. So this rule following and order following is something which is actually kind of it's blindly the character has actually kind of subscribed to this idea कि जो order है वो लेना पड़ेगा, जो rule है उसको follow करना पड़ेगा. And even when he actually apologizes to his team members at that before the final they disperse as from the academy, he says that I tried to follow my sense of duty, and in following my sense of duty, I abandoned my squadron. I haven't slept in 3 days. I asked myself what is more important for a soldier, duty or loyalty. I'm still not clear. So this is what actually is going to undergo a change. The sense of what is he wants to actually kind of follow the rules and obey the orders. So, so this is the character that we see initially in Arun Khetrapal. And probably, him being a tank commander is the it's a good what to say, symbol of that, because with the tanks, the issue is that from a tank you cannot actually kind of you do not get a wide angle vision. You only get a very sharp focused vision. So it actually kind of limits your vision in a sense. Probably, this idea of okay obeying the rules and following the orders and the tank actually kind of somewhere sync quite well. And the sense of duty is not just of what's Arun Khetrapal. It's also for Nisar. When Madan actually kind of tells him, मुझे समझ नहीं आ रहा है कि क्या सच है. Nisar says we are just soldiers following our orders, following the orders. So all of them are actually kind of following orders, and there's a cost that actually kind of they bear for that. Not just them. Nisar also says that those ISI agents who are actually kind of following them, spying them, even there he says they are just doing their duty. वो अपना काम कर रहे हैं. So there is something about okay, this whole rule abiding, following orders, which actually kind of the film seems to be actually kind of critiquing by making it actually kind of there. For everyone, and there's a price that actually kind of every character pays for that. And Arun, the rule abiding person, actually kind of breaks the curfew once to meet Kiran. Probably he is actually kind of make that shift initially happens slightly because okay, because of the incident with Bedi. Where Bedi gets rusticated, where he's trying to follow the rule, and Kiran actually kind of shames him for that. So probably, he takes that courage slightly to actually kind of break the rule to meet Kiran, but then there is again a price to be paid, and he regrets it. It feels like he's going back to the same rule-abiding, order-following kind of a person. And interestingly, this scene unfolds just before the scene. In the 1971 timeline, it actually kind of unfolds just before we see the scene where actually kind of he goes to the war and finally gets martyred. So it's almost like, because of, the film playing in three timelines, we are able to see the cause-effect relation very clearly. Because just before him taking that final step of actually kind of, I shall not obey the orders, but I'll do what my sense of duty is, my loyalty is, happens just, before we see the scene of Kiran actually kind of, I mean, uh, telling him that, okay, कि देश तो तुम्हारे हाथ में बहुत मतलब क्या है सेफ है. So her words actually kind of give that nudge for him to actually kind of to go beyond orders, go beyond following rules and doing something beyond that. So if the story was not to be told in a, what to say, in a non-linear manner, then the cause effect wouldn't have been very clear. That's one thing. And it would have almost been a story of, what to say, uh, uh, it would have been a very story of bravery alone of Arun Khetarpal, who went and actually kind of became a martyr. Which, it was brave of him, yes, no doubt. But the whole, the human element which actually kind of comes in, and that bravery and that courage actually kind of being fueled by love. Love for the country and love for the individual also. That wouldn't have actually kind of come across. So the structuring of the story is important for the foregrounding of the vision of the story. Also, when we actually kind of look at the individual scenes in the film, almost all the scenes where actually kind of Arun Khetarpal is getting ready for the war and he's getting prepared for the war, we see a very interesting structure where actually we do not see the character progressing much. So there are sparks of brilliance that we see of the character, but not see, a plot progression doesn't happen much so for example, the scene where actually kind of he comes into the war field with the golf kit. He's asked like whose golf kit is, and he says, it's mine. And Hanut actually kind of asked him like, खेलने आए हो क्या? And he says, नहीं ना, खेलना है लाहौर में. So it actually kind of shows, a peak, height of, the bravery of, the material which actually Arun Khetarpal is made of. But immediately it punctures it by when Hanut says, बेवकूफ बहादुर होता है या बहादुर बेवकूफ होता है. So then it doesn't actually kind of take him anywhere. So you see that rise in the character in the middle of the scene, then it falls. And in the following scenes also, where actually he's being trained, he's actually kind of locked in the tank and then he actually kind of manages to come out of it. It looks like, okay, he has made a progress, but then actually Sagat actually kind of says, 12 minutes, इतना टाइम तो रुकेगा ना माइंड फोड़ने से पहले. Again, it actually kind of punctures it. So the character's bravery is seen, but it doesn't make any progression. The progression in the character happens in a major way only when the nudge from the previous timeline actually kind of comes in the form of the what to say, Kiran's words. But when we see that with the scene construction they have made of, okay, Kiran and Arun Khetarpal, that particular thread, you see, the progression in the plot happens very swiftly. Quickly. They meet, then they actually kind of meet for coffee, then they meet in the library. So progression is happening very quickly. But in the war thread, actually the progression is not happening. We see the brilliance, it has, kind of collapses. There are also moments where actually kind of he's asking his seniors, कि, हम reserve पे क्यों खड़े हैं? Again, it means that what he wants to do is not happening. And finally, when it has to happen, it happens because of the nudge that actually kind of he gets from the love for the country, which is inherently there in him, and also the nudge that he gets from Kiran, the character. And this entire thing could have happened only because it follows a non-linear structure and it operates in three timelines. And they actually kind of, the way it actually kind of, they have intertwined is actually kind of making this actually kind of happen. And we see that, when the final push for the change comes through love for Arun. As I mentioned earlier, एक भी गोली नहीं चलाई, मर्दों वाला कोई काम नहीं किया, क्या कैसे जाके मैं माफी मांगू, या क्या कैसे how do I meet eyes with this love of my life? So he's even there actually kind of the motivation for the character is actually kind of coming through a very human element. It's not. See, I mean, without these human elements, it would have been another what I mean story of what I mean of a muscled man actually kind of taking on the enemies. That's what it would be. So the humanizing of these characters become very important. And it's actually, I mean, the love in the heart that actually kind of makes him move beyond just a rule-abiding and order-following soldier. And also, I mean, in the end, when he's actually kind of his tank is on fire, he says that I will not abandon my tank. When he's constantly being said, I mean, abandon the tank. Tank पीछे लेके जाओ या तो tank से उतर जाओ नहीं तो tank पीछे ले जाके आग बुझाओ. He says, I shall not abandon my tank. This is in contrast with what he had actually kind of told his fellow mates during the training time that in my sense of duty, I abandoned my squadron. So now he's not actually kind of doing that. So we see that arc actually kind of coming in. So there he was duty bound and he abandoned the squadron. Here he's not abandoning the tank because he's not following the what's I mean orders also over here. So that's the arc that we actually kind of see of Arun Khetarpal. Without the non-linear structure, again, I mean the construction, the story would have been a celebration of bravado in Arun Khetrapal's story, and without the non-linear structure, even Nisar's story would have actually kind of been a very sappy, melancholic story. What actually kind of grounds it and actually kind of makes it more human is actually the non-linear structure and how it actually kind of intertwines with the previous timelines in the film. So what happens in Nisar's story? Just before the war begins, I mean, where he enters the war field and actually kind of he comes face to face with Arun Khetrapal and kills him. There are two things happening very interestingly. One, superior's son Altaf is killed, and his superior actually had told him कि अच्छा मैं अल्ताफ मेरा वालिद है उसका हिफाजत करना मतलब उसका खास ख्याल रखना. And he actually kind of is not able to do that. One, I mean, he sees the laws. I mean, he knows this soldier is not just a soldier, but also son of someone. That's one thing which actually kind of happens. And there is another thing which is happening in the story, which he actually kind of tells Sabah, his daughter, that when he got to know that his wife was pregnant, he was in the middle of the war. एंड ही सेज दैट आई मीन उस रात मैंने सिर्फ एक दुआ मांगी थी कि जब तक मैं अपने बच्चे का सूरत देखूं तब तक उस तक मेरी सांस बचा के रखना. दैट इज वन ऑफ द प्रेयर्स दैट ही एक्चुअली काइंड ऑफ मेड. सो देयर इज दिस फादर एलिमेंट in Nisar also, which actually kind of makes why is he so guilty about killing Arun Khetrapal in this film? Because I mean the filmmakers have and the writers have actually kind of neatly underlined with one the birth of Sabah, his daughter, which is happening. I mean about which he gets to know when he's in the warfield, and it's also the killing of Altaf, who he was actually kind of supposed to take care of in the warfield. So these two actually kind of make it very clear as to why he's actually kind of so guilty about actually kind of having killed Arun in the film. Again, so what this actually kind of does, this actually kind of gives a solid root for the guilt of Nisar, and it also humanizes him. And also Nisar is also presented to us not just as a brave soldier, but an guilt carrying person, but also a lover of poetry. In the middle of the wars, from nowhere, actually kind of he actually kind of starts quoting Mirza Ghalib. And that's a beauty. I mean, it's a nice moment where actually kind of he quotes Mirza Ghalib saying, I mean, रगों में दौड़ते फिरने के हम नहीं कायल जब आंख ही से न टपका तो फिर लहू क्या है. And actually kind of connecting it with what's I mean the passion for war. So without this, I mean, again, I mean, we are able to actually kind of connect that. I mean, the what's I mean cause effect relation. Again, we are able to make that. I mean, the killing of Altaf, the birth of Sabah, and the guilt that Nisar carries because of the non-linear structure and the intertwining of these three timelines. Uh, so these are the two main characters and how the time, I mean, the interweaving of different timelines actually kind of operate with these two characters. And there is a character of Madan also, which is actually kind of very nicely written. Again, as I mentioned earlier, he's not shown as a very proud father, I mean, who's carrying the medal on his chest or anything. He's presented more as a, of course, I mean, he's proud, ye Ikkis ka tha, ye Ikkis ka hi rahega, and he's proud of all of that, but also he's carrying the hurt of a father. And also, I mean, this character, interestingly, is someone who actually migrated from Pakistan pre-partition, which actually kind of brings in another human dimension to the story. So all these things are actually kind of humanizing the characters and also humanizing the story. It's only through the characters that actually the story also gets humanized. And he's actually kind of longing to actually kind of reunite with a lost past or of his childhood. And that actually kind of and there is also I mean, very, I mean, what's I mean, very playful, what to say, element of Husna, which is coming in, which is again a very humanizing element. And also, I mean, the way he actually kind of reads that poetry, I mean, Apne Pind Jawa, again, which actually kind of brings in a lot of warmth to this particular character. Uh, and uh, and with and what happens is also Madan shares grief with Jahangir. I mean, so it actually kind of, I mean, brings the two characters together from opposite sides. Jahangir has lost his leg, Madan has lost his son. It actually kind of brings these two countries also, enemy countries also kind of together. Okay, there is a shared past, there is a shared grief also with the war. And also, I mean, the way actually, Sriram Raghavan and team have actually kind of uh, consciously actually kind of brought in certain elements to actually kind of, what to say, I mean, to show the beauty of the Indo-Pak relation. I mean, which is almost like, I mean, what Patwardhan in his documentary War and Peace says. I mean, Pakistan is like a mirror to my country, which shows both my beauty and my ugliness. So in that sense, I mean, we see, I mean, a lot of what's, I mean, very interesting elements of the Indo-Pak relation, which is not completely antagonizing the other. We see actually, I mean, at the very beginning, okay, there are a bunch of people who are protesting, saying that okay, when I mean, that particular circle needs to be named Bhagat Singh Chowk. Bhagat Singh is a freedom hero for India, but I mean, in Pakistan, where he was hanged, there he's actually kind of, I mean, they want to name his the chalk after him. And also, there is a very interesting point where actually, I mean, the Indian army, barges into the crosses the international border and crosses, I mean, enters Pakistan. And Arun Khetrapal is actually very excited. He says, I mean, हम पाकिस्तान में हैं एंड द अदर फेलो से हमें कुछ फर्क तो नजर नहीं आ रहा है सब एक जैसा लग रहा है हाँ एक जैसा लग रहा है सो आई मीन इन अ सेंस आई मीन इट एक्चुअली काइंड ऑफ डजंट एक्चुअली काइंड ऑफ पोर्ट्रे पाकिस्तान as this enemy figure, like most of these films actually kind of do. And also, there is a very interesting moment where actually the Pakistani civilians mistake Indian soldiers to be a Pakistan soldiers. Again, which is a very nice element. And also, of course, I mean, I mean, when Madan Khetarpal visits his old house, the people residing there speak about their love for Bollywood. Again, a shared love that we actually kind of get to see. And also there are small elements like Devanand's photo coming up over there. And Matchbox actually has Noor Jahan's photograph. Again, in all these actually shared love that both countries actually kind of carry. And also, I mean, um, such nice detailing. I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's a whole lot of meme going about. I mean, peak detailing by Aditya Dhar for Dhurandhar. I mean, someone should do for, I mean, Ikkis. I mean, when the character Madan Khetrapal goes for reunion of his college, he's signing over there and he's signing in Nastaliq. He's not writing in Devanagari script. And this is true of many people who are actually kind of born in that particular region. I mean, including, I mean, I.K. Gujral and actually, I mean, even I mean, our Manmohan Singh, they mostly actually kind of wrote in the Arabic script, not the Devanagari script, even though actually kind of though they were speaking in Hindi. So there is something about this. I mean, Urdu always stands as this, what I mean, this I mean, symbol of what I mean, the Ganga Jamni, I mean, Tehzeeb and all of that. And that small detail is so interesting. Like every time, actually, I mean, I watch that film, I was like, that was such a nice detail. I mean, Dharmender signing from actually kind of, I mean, from right to left, which is very interesting. Again, it actually kind of brings these two countries. I mean, it doesn't pose one against the other. It actually kind of, I mean, repeatedly with these small details, which perhaps were not essential for the plot in a very big sense, but still actually bringing in these elements has actually kind of made this film actually kind of not antagonize anyone, but actually kind of antagonize war itself or a very what's I mean, a war-like situation. And yeah, and also the final monologue of Madan, which is so beautiful, where actually kind of he says, let me repeat this. I mean, I have written it down over here. इस दरख्त के सीने पर कितने गोली लगे लगे थे, फिर भी ये हरा भरा है। जिंदगी अपना रास्ता बना ही लेती है। बारूद से बुनी ये जमीन कितनी जिद्दी है, फिर सरजब्ज हो गई। लोग भूल गए हैं कि यहाँ कभी जंग हुई थी। जंग के जख्म भरते नहीं, कोई ना कोई फिर उसे कुरेद देता है और फिर से जंग हो जाती है। ये बार बार हमारे फसल और हमारे नस्ल खत्म कर देती है। एंड दैट्स सच अ नाइस, आई मीन इट राइम्स आल्सो, बट इट आल्सो एक्चुअली काइंड ऑफ साउंड्स सो गुड। आई मीन इट साउंड्स सो apt in the in the for the character Madan, because he has lost his son over there. ये ऐसे ही चलता रहा है और ऐसे ही चलता रहेगा, पता नहीं कब रुकेगा। ये तब रुकेगा जब हम इसे रोकेंगे। इट्स सच अ नाइस, which actually kind of captures the anti-war vision of this actually of this film. And I mean, it's the characters, the way the characters have been written, and how their motivation and the after effects, the reality that they have to live with before and after war, which actually kind of brings in the what's I mean the anti-war feeling to this particular film. And the cost of war is not just borne by, I mean, humans. The film again, I mean, like such beautiful details. I mean, in Sarachak, when they actually kind of, capture the face over there. I mean, Arun Khetrapal enters a house and there's a cat that's meowing over there. And there is, I mean, in one particular point, there are these roosters who actually kind of, I mean, the society comes in the way of the tank, and the rooster actually kind of climbs the tank. Again, so these are also casualties of war. And of course, there's Rex, the military dog, military training dog. And even in one of the, I mean, when they come to Sargoda for the first time, and Arun Khetrapal and his team, there are dogs which are barking over there. And of course, there are, I mean, there's this the final act where it's not just the animals also, it's also, I mean, the tree actually, the branch catches fire and it falls on Arun Khetrapal. Again, that's actually another kind of, also, I mean, impact of war. And uh, there is also, I mean, the Jahangir, which actually is a very interesting character because he's enraged that, I mean, an Indian has been actually kind of sheltered in his neighborhood. And when he actually kind of he spits on, I mean, on Madan Khetrapal, and he says, I mean, kya khak janta hai tu budde, and all of that. But the moment Madan Khetrapal embraces him, saying that, okay, I mean, I have lost my son, he's not saying anything. I mean, he's not saying, अच्छा तुम्हारा बेटा भी गया है क्या? He immediately starts saying, चारों तरफ गोलियां चल रही थी, मेरे दोस्त मर गए, पता नहीं मैं क्यों जिंदा रहा. Again, it actually kind of speaks of the cost of war in the sense that, okay, I mean, it's see, I mean, this person has one, he has to live perpetually as I mean, what's I mean, as this war veteran carrying the whole anger in him. I mean, he has not even had someone to actually kind of give him a warm hug, and for him to actually kind of vent that actually kind of what's I mean trauma that he's carrying. I mean, how it was to be in the war. So the moment he's embraced by someone, and from, I mean, someone actually from the so-called enemy country, he immediately starts actually kind of speaking about it as if he was waiting for it. So, I mean, a war situation even actually kind of deprives people of a human touch. I mean, that's also something which actually kind of Ikkis actually kind of tells through that character of Jahangir, who is waiting for that one touch, which will actually kind of help him release that whatsoever pain that he's carrying. And it's actually something which has been recorded also, I mean, mainly by, I mean, psychiatrists and psychologists working with the trauma inflicted people, that a lot of these, I mean, people who have, I mean, fought the war, they do not want to forget people who they lost in the war. I mean, their friends, their, I mean, comrades who they lost in the war, because it feels like forgetting them is like betraying them. So they have to perpetually carry this what is I mean grief. They have to carry that actually kind of what's I mean loss, as if I mean that's also a medal. They can't actually kind of let it release, and it becomes a what's I mean it actually kind of deprives them of, okay, a very normal human life also. That also actually kind of gets expressed in Ikkis. I mean that loss of the absence of human touch in Jahangir. And also in a very strange way, the presence of these ISI people actually kind of highlights how, I mean, even privacy gets actually kind of compromised because of a war situation. And the most painful part is where actually in the end, when Nisar gets called by the ISI office, and he's actually kind of said, "Yes, I mean, can you actually kind of help us actually kind of build a bridge and actually kind of get information?" a war situation also actually kind of the casualty is trust. That also actually kind of comes out in a very interesting way in Ikkis. And now coming to actually kind of this last two parts, and I'll actually complete it. There is a very interesting rhyming relations that we actually kind of see in Ikkis. And let me actually kind of just this actually I had written something uh, earlier. So I'll just read out those few lines which I had written earlier about rhyming relations. If I had written it for something. So, instead of actually just trying to recall it, I'll read it out completely over here. There are also rhyming relations created by the screenwriters in the three timelines. When Arun abandons his teammates in wanting to be a rule abiding soldier, his team distances him. When he expresses his pain to Kiran, he's asked to acknowledge his mistakes and apologize to the team. When he does that, the team accepts him back. Nisar finds redemption only by acknowledging the truth to himself and Madan. To himself, the truth of Aman's bravery, and to Madan, the truth about he being the killer of Madan's son. When Aman throws away the half written letter to Kiran, he is asked by his friend to acknowledge his mistake, complete the letter, and repair the broken relationship. In all the rhyming relations, the mistake, mishap happens because one is being loyal to a sense of duty and is following orders. By creating a pattern of mistakes, burden of the past, and reconciliation and redemption, the film hints at repair as a solution to troubled relations, not revenge. It also suggests the past can be unburdened with peace and love, the path to which is truth, honesty, and genuine intentions. This perhaps is Ikkis' conversation with larger politics of hatred. With this, Ikkis becomes different from most of the war films coming out of India, where chest thumping nationalism and bloodthirsty aesthetics leaves no space for humanism. And the triumph of humanism in Ikkis is actually its triumph, and what actually kind of makes it such a special film for us to watch. Let me finally end with this one small bit that okay, there is a very funny moment when these ISI agents are following Madan Khetrapal and Nisar while they are on their way to Sargoda. And in a very intense moment, they both actually kind of stop the conversation and they just go silent because the moment has become so intense. And when they sit silent, the one of the person in the car, one of the ISI officers in the car behind them says, uh, ये हेडक्वार्टर्स में ये खामोशी भी सुनते होंगे या फॉरवर्ड करते होंगे. Okay. So, when I actually requested Sriram sir to actually kind of come take part in this discussion, and I wrote him a mail. He said that, he had read my review for Deccan and he had liked the last line quite a lot. That got edited a bit. So now let me end this by actually kind of telling what exactly my original lines were. And with that, Sriram sir is here. So with that, I'll actually end this, my words. I say the film also has three interesting characters who are ISI agents. Two of them place a spy mic in Nisar's car and follow him when he drives Madan to his ancestral place, Sargoda. The film shows them also as humans who are fixing car tires, who eat meals, etc. Nisar sees them as duty-bound people, like he once was. In a striking moment, following an intense conversation, Nisar and Madan go silent, and the ISI agent, secretly hearing the conversation, asks his colleague, do people at the HQ listen to silences as well, or do they forward it? Then, actually, the concluding lines while words hold the capacity to speak the truth, silence holds the capacity to speak truth and a half. Ikkis listens to the silences too. So, and it's actually kind of similar to that one funny moment also which happens in the middle of Warfield. Paresh Kamdar, a recurring character in all Sriram Raghavan films, actually, he's a journalist who comes and asks initially some other soldier that, आपका अगला कदम क्या है दुश्मन की छाती पर. Then he comes to Arun Khetrapal and he asks him, आपको क्या कहना है? And he goes silent and he immediately says, cut, 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 cut. ये नहीं रखेंगे. Now, while see, I mean, there is a lot that actually kind of silence of Arun Khetrapal, who wanted to come to actually kind of fight the war, but he has lost his. I mean, his friend is injured, and it's actually a severe injury, so he doesn't know what's going to happen to his friend. And that silence actually kind of shows that, I mean, he's not willing to actually kind of speak a language of rage at that point of time, and that hesitation actually kind of says something. The silence that actually kind of, I mean, that comes between. Uh, Nisar and Madan Khetrapal, that says something. And the difference between what's I mean, a jingoistic film and Ikkis is that Ikkis cares to listen to that silence as well, and actually kind of bear witness to that silence and what prompts that silence and the ripples that the silence creates. Whereas, I will not hesitate to even name films like Dhurandhar will not actually kind of care to listen to the silence, and it only listens to के अगला कदम सीधा दुश्मन की छाती पर, and it only needs that. The rest remains, I mean, gets cut. I mean, in a sense, I mean, Ikkis becomes the unedited version of a war, which actually kind of speaks about. I mean, there are about some brave soldiers like Arun Ketarpal who actually kind of go and defend the country and become martyrs, but there is a human and I mean non-human or not inhuman, but non-human price also that war has to pay, and that is actually kind of that something which majorly comes through in a case, and that's why it's such a refreshing and much necessary film, which actually kind of I mean which speaks which foregrounds humanism even when actually kind of speaking of war. I I mean, I hope I mean my scattered notes has made some sense. And if my words have not made sense, I'm sure I mean all of you in the conversation will actually kind of bring in some sense to this. Thank you, thank you. And I think Sriram sir is here. So I mean, Sriram sir, I mean, I started off saying that I mean, if whenever I meet you, it's going to I mean, I'm going to hug you for making this film. So right now, I mean, it's just a virtual hug from my side. Please accept, sir. Thank you.
You are muted.
One sec. Can I have you muted me or I have to unmute myself?
Yeah,
You're now audible. You're
You're
audible.
audible,
you're
sir.
audible.
Now, okay. I think initially you had muted me and now I have muted myself. So now I'm okay. So, ठीक है.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I came in a little late because I was in the middle of traffic and by the time I reached home, I was thinking I'll do it in my office or here and I got miscalculated. But anyway, I got most of it and very, very sort of detailed and so many things we have spoken about. And I know there's so many people also, so it's wonderful to see all this. And I hope you all sort of the film worked on you all. I mean, I don't know, enjoyed is the right word for such films, but yeah, you can also enjoy it. And
Mm. Oh, thank you,
so,
Sambarto, for your meaningful and wonderful discussions. It was very insightful, and we welcome director Sriram Raghavan for joining us. We warmly welcome you, and thanks for this beautiful film. Now we will open this forum for our guests and invitees for their comment and the critical discussion.
sure, sure.
Can I come in, Shantanu?
Yes, please, ma'am.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. On behalf of TFO, let me once again welcome Sriram Raghavan as well as Mukesh Khetarpal. And thank you so much, Samvartha, for your close reading of the film. I saw the film as, in a very major way, departing from the conventional war films that Hindi cinema has made until now. Like rather than glorifying martyrdom in a straightforward manner, it kind of interrogates the very meaning of martyrdom, the very meaning of heroism. And Samvartha has already spoken about how the narrative, kind of oscillates between past and present. And I think this fragmentation is far more than merely being stylistic. It kind of almost, I would say, mirrors the difficulty of putting together or reconstructing a life that has been cut short at 21. And this whole idea of Ikkis, it keeps coming again and again in the film. And 21 is generally considered, coming of age. It's a kind of liminal stage in one's life where, like he's caught between adolescence on the one hand and adulthood on the other hand. So Arun Khetarpal is not really, kind of presented to us as some kind of a fully formed hero, the way we can see in Vishnuvardhan's Sher Shah, which is based on the life of Vikram Batra. So here you have a hero who is in the process of becoming. And that is why, that scene where he's first, told about the possibility of action, and he gets very excited about it. At one level, one can read it as, oh, okay, here's another macho man waiting to get into action. But I think that would be a very, kind of reductive reading. It is rather, that kind of impulsiveness is something that that is what do I say? It's his own, his vulnerability, his fragility, because here is a person coming into his own. He's youthful, he's incomplete, and as we know, the title itself foregrounds youth, Ikkis. And one of the biggest tragedies of war has always been the loss of youth. So this is one film that really captures that, I thought, very beautifully. And another thing is that, this whole question of obedience and disobedience. For instance, in the army, which is, it is structured itself on command and obedience and all of that. Here you have this young man who disobeys a command in the larger interest. And of course, war is a state of exception, and what in peace would have been seen as insubordination and maybe even a cause for a court martial is seen as bravery, as gallantry, because it is something that is done in the interest of the larger good. So that again is very interesting in the way the whole idea of this blind obedience to a higher command is complicated in the film. And so this whole question of nationalism, and now this is not a film that, shows that kind of chest thumping patriotism. It is not that kind at all. Rather, it is, some kind of a quiet and introspective patriotism. And the emphasis of the film is largely on grief. So these are some of the very interesting things that I found about the film. There are more, but let me stop here. But just one question to Sriram Raghavan, and that is, there is a text which appears at the very end of the film, and there is a voiceover, reading that text, which which talks about how we should be constantly alert. And it also uses the word krur, krurta of the enemy, the cruelty of the enemy. So somehow that I found a little disturbing because I thought it kind of nullifies all that the film stood for. And just one more thing before I end, and that is the 1971 army was a very different army from what it is now. For instance, in that briefing before they are sent to the front, Colonel Hanut says, Allah ka haath hai hum sabke upar. Now, that is something I don't think we will ever hear today from an Indian army officer. So these are kind of some of the things that struck me while watching, but that last text leaves me a little disturbed. I don't know whether it was for sense, I mean, it was imposed on the filmmaker. I would like to hear from him what he would have to say about that.
You're absolutely right about the last thing. It is something that was I was sort of told to put, and it was something which if I have to fight, I have to. It's a process, you know. It's like
Yeah,
doing the film and all that. So I tried to fight for it to be as late as possible, so that usually people get up in the movie, though they should watch till the end. So sometimes when the movie works, the people who like it, they watch till the end because they want to be
right.
involved. So they end up
Yes.
watching that. So it's a bit of a double-edged thing for me, you know. But yeah, it's you're right.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Can I just make
Yeah.
one? I mean, because Geeta mentioned about the title Ikkis, and I mean, I think, in the Hindi film industry, there are two gifted people. I mean, one is A.R. Rahman, according to me. The other is Amitabh Bhattacharya. I mean, the way he can pull off magic is, just brilliant. I mean, like, one of the things really actually kind of, I don't know how many films in the middle of the film, the middle of a song, I'm actually kind of, jumping out of my seat because, I've heard something extraordinary by Amitabh Bhattacharya. It happened with Ikkis also. Like, see, we use that phrase so easily, like, 19-20 ka farak hai. The way he actually kind of takes, chalti nahi 19-20, ban ke dikha 21 is just brilliant. And it also actually, I was discussing this with Pallavi, who's also here, and Pallavi said, yeah, it also goes well with 21 Top Wala Salam. So it's not just
Yes.
coming of age, it goes with the, I'm like, whoa, what a stroke of genius this is. Like,
I totally agree. And I mean, when we got the lyrics, I mean, when we got those words, I was so happy. And yeah, I totally agree with you. And I also hugged him.
oh, okay. Even I would do that.
Now I invite Professor Nikhila to say her thoughts about this film.
Sriram Raghavan ji, warm welcome to Talking Films Online. This is a weekly discussion forum where every Saturday night at 9 p.m. we discuss a pre-decided film like this. Samvartha for a very long time was insistent that we should discuss this film, and we were waiting for it to appear on Prime so that we can have this discussion. And I can see why. Yeah, I had missed it in the theaters, and I could watch it only for this discussion. Yes, as Samvartha said, and thanks Samvartha for this. Of course, your passion for the film. And all those four viewings we could see in every minute detail that you were elaborating. Some of us who have watched it very quickly just last night, I have missed many things, but thanks very much for your introduction. Of course, the one thing that struck me very much was how often in cinema, grief turns into a recipe for revenge. So it becomes a provocation for a revenge. For it to eschew that path, to say that, well, it's not, going in the direction of revenge. It is going into, a collective sense of loss and mourning. So that is at a time like this, especially that Sri Ram Raghavan has actually decided to tread this path. is simply so amazing. You know that what could, and also for I thought this is also very much a nationalistic film, but not the kind of nationalism. So the kind of discourse of nationalism that is informing this film is very, very different, I would think, from the discourse of nationalism that is dominant at this particular point in time. For one, I think while there is pride in the country, there is a pride about the country, there is also a sense of there is no permanent enemy. So Pakistan is not like portrayed as a permanent enemy through whom one has to affirm one's nationalism or one's national commitment. There is an underlying commonality, or Samvartha called it humanism. There is an underlying loss, probably a shared history. Many of that comes across very wonderfully in the film. A history that is alive, through characters like the one played by the father, by Dharmendra, the father's character. So I thought all that was wonderfully presented in the film. So thanks very much to Samvartha. Thanks to Sriram Raghavan for making such a wonderful film and for joining our discussion today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, over to you, Shantanu.
Yeah, thanks, ma'am. Now I will ask Sanjay Kumar to speak about something, his remarks about this film.
Okay, thanks, Shantanu, actually, for calling me because I have been waiting anyway. I was very excited. I mean, when I saw this film, that reminded me of so many things.
Excuse me, your
In
camera is
fact,
off. Your camera is off. If you just turn it on, please.
oh, okay,
Thank you, sir.
okay, yeah. So, well, some of the topics have already been discussed. Yet, I would like to talk about this, uh, like the glorification of war, which happens normally. That reminded me of this film, of this short story by Pirandello, which is called War. I don't know what is the Italian title, but this is translated as War, in which there is a train in which this story was just published around 1918, after the World War I, when there are people discussing in the train, and they're saying some of them, they have lost their sons in the war. They have, and some of them are also proud of that. So there is one person who is saying, why one lady starts crying because she has lost someone in the war. And this person who has also lost his son, but he says, no, our sons are for the country. They are not our sons. Okay. So you should be proud of that. And then finally, towards the end of the story, then this lady who has been crying, she just stops. And then after some time, she asks this person who has been, like talking pridely about losing his son in the war. He says, she simply says, then is your son really dead? This is the sentence. And after this, this person starts crying uncontrollably. And people say they are not able to calm him, in the train. So that shows that human touch, that what happens in the war when you realize that you lost your son. So I can see that in the eyes of Madan, the character, in this film. So, and there are other places like Samvartha also mentioned, the journalist, who is reporting and asking him to comment. And then Arun doesn't say anything. He's just silent. And his vulnerability of the character has also been reflected in several scenes. One of the first scenes, in fact, when he has to kill the goat. So one person has killed it, without flinching. And then this person when Arun has to kill the goat, he's not able to do that. He misses, and then the other person has to kill. So think like, listening to stories of war, romanticizing it, that is one thing. But when you go to the battlefield, then what happens? That reality, how does it contrast itself with the stories you have heard? So this film beautifully presents this contrast. And the us versus other, that also has been beautifully presented, as Samvartha already pointed out, that when they reach the boundary, they come to Pakistan, and says that Arun says that, we are in Pakistan. They say it looks the same even here. Okay, so and interestingly, in the beginning of the film, some of us might have missed. Actually, I again went to see the beginning of the film. Whose photograph is there? So photograph of Arun is there on the wall. When he's Nisar is Brigadier Nisar is removing that photograph from the wall because he doesn't want Madan to see this photograph, and but still that guilt is there with him, and he tries to express that, tries to confess before Madan that he has killed his son in the war. He's not able to do that. He needs Dutch courage. That is also shown. He's drinking and trying to muster the courage to talk about this. And in one of the scenes, Nisar uses the word enemy. The enemy's tanks were here. He says something like that. And then all of a sudden he realizes he's using the word enemy, and Madan is also who is representing the country of the enemy. And then at that moment, there is a silence. So that is really beautiful. For maybe 10 seconds, I didn't count, but that silence is very dominant in the film. It shows, I could see very beautifully in this film at least three things. One is the dialogue and the silence. Where to put, emphasize the dialogue, and where to keep the silence. When to go back, like in flashback, and when to come back, okay, in the present. That also is very beautifully done, because there are certain links. It's not just done at random. So, for example, Nisar is laughing at this ISI officer who says that then we can have contact in Delhi. And he just laughs, okay, then he doesn't say anything. I mean, we can interpret that as, see, this fellow is still trying to take advantage of this. He's not thinking that, I did everything just for the sake of humanity. It's not that, okay, I have to gain something, out of that. And so, and there is one, after that, just one last point. It is just said, there is one sentence only, okay, in this film, which talks about the letters being censored. It's not so much emphasized, but I can feel that, because in World War One, when Indian soldiers, they went to France. In fact, they were fighting along with the French army against the Germans. Their letters were censored. They used to write letters. Most of them were from Haryana and Punjab. And they used to write letters, and later on these letters were published by David O'Missy, one of the war historians. And these censored letters were kept with the British government. And in them now, because we can read those letters, there is no glorification of war. In fact, these soldiers, what normally we see in the film, that they are, we will go and we will fight and we will die for the country and all that. But really, you see, all these letters are available now of the Indian soldiers written from the battlefront, that they are talking about the misery, their friends they lost. They are talking about even climate, the cold that they have to bear. They are talking about food, what they are eating there. So it's not about the glorification of war and it's happening something, and we should be proud of that. It is something as, considering war as the last resort probably, and where nothing, I mean, but most of the films, unfortunately, they present it as something, as we must do it and for the sake of country and all that. So I think this film has a very critical look on war, which reminded me of some of the French films, of course, very good films. So I wanted to say, actually, that time I missed one point. The three things which I really liked first is juxtaposing present and past, that flashback and flash forward, dialogue and silence, and the third thing, which is again, I can say, this is one of the hallmarks of this film, is that the combination between telling and showing. What do you tell? What do you narrate? So when Nisar is narrating, we can see him standing under the tree and telling, this is exactly the spot where Arun died. Okay. Telling and then again showing. Okay. This is beautifully done. Very sharply, the editing has been done and it has been presented in a very precise way, and connecting, finding the meaning between the past and the present, between the dialogue and the silence, between the telling and showing. That's wonderful, actually. Really, I like this film. Thank you very much for this kind of film.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Kumar, for his wonderful remark and its correlation with the short story and with the world history's phenomenon. Now we will go to Professor Poniraj. So you please come and say about about the film.
Thank you. I don't have much to say apart from what Sam has already narrated and what Sanjay has added, but I wanted to focus on one detail which I thought Sam would tell. That is that when he was walking through the corridors of Lahore, College of Lahore, we see Devanand, portrait of Devanand. Behind that, there is a portrait of Faiz Ahmad Faiz also. I loved that detailing, apart from what Arabic script, what Dharmender writes, or Madan writes. It's also the luminaries of Lahore College. Devanand is there, of course, that comes as Sriram's passion for going back to the old films. But there is Faiz Ahmad Faiz. You cannot miss it there in the background. And I was searching for, it comes barely for a few seconds, and then the shot passes to next. But I was searching for Manto also. Manto is also from Lahore College. But when I thought I missed Manto there, I got back when I don't know remember the name. Asrani is there who talks about Husna. When he was talking about Husna, he doesn't recognize Madan. But when Madan, somebody says that he is passing through Algimar's and he don't remember the past, then he says, yeah, Madan India में है और since partition हो गया है इसलिए है तो then the character asks, what is partition? When the partition has happened, it immediately brings us back to Manto and Manto's very famous short story about not accepting the partition. So this kind of small detailing, we love it in Sriram's film, in his previous films also, and in this film also. And I was also wondering why all of a sudden Sriram got into this, because we are fans of his thrillers. And was very keen to see how he has dealt with war film. And as Sam said, it ran only 10 days in my place, and I missed it in my place, and I ran to nearby city to have a last show. When Sam said he went for a first show, I went to Mangalore and had it as last show. I didn't miss one thing in Sriram's narratives. Even I can link it to his previous thrillers, where he, as what Brecht says, he fabulizes the things. Fabulizing is not fable. It's not a fable. He says F-A-B-E-L, fable. He makes familiar things unfamiliar and then narrates it to us so that we can go back to the basics of human relations and then think about the human relations. Cleaning all the dust which has gathered over the years about the human relations, remove that dust, so make it unfamiliar. So because enmity between India and Pakistan and war films have gathered a lot of dust and a lot of chest thumping patriotism and nationalism in us. What he did is, I love, is fabulizing it. Make it as an unfamiliar story, a fresh story, a new story, like what he did in his crime thrillers also, where 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 he tells the crime thrillers as if it's a new story that I'm going to tell. You already know this. These stories have already come. You have seen it in many other thrillers, but as if I'm telling it as a new, he makes it unfamiliar to those situations which you could have linked it to other films, but again puts it in a new narrative and makes us to look at as a new thing, and then look at the human relations and the crime and thrill what we had. That is the one thing which links Ikkis. It is a completely a different genre which Sriram deals again and again. But that you cannot miss is artistry of fabulizing there, which I loved it once again here. And the another point what I wanted to talk about was, again, a open ending, which is very, very characteristic of his crime thrillers, is also here. We cannot rest assured that, in spite of Madan speaking about the cruelties of war and its continuing and what we should do to resolve it, etc., but the threads are not so tightly, you cannot tie them so tightly, so that when you come out of the film, you cannot say that, oh, okay, I am pleased to have this, because it is continuous outside the theater, the situation and the world continues, and Sriram leads us to that world, because even in his crime films, the end is open-ended. You cannot say that we have resolved the issues. It is continuing. So the ISI top officer comes and asks Nisar about it. He laughs, and it cuts immediately to the Hall of Fame. And you see again a kind of patriotic feelings evoked there. I will become youngest Paramvira, and then it cuts and comes to another batch who again shows Arun Ketrapal and says that I will become a Mati. So that kind of, you cannot just wish them off. You cannot just erase them off. You continue to be in the present. So I will tell you as if it's a new story, a strange story, is strained to our times, to the way we narrate it, cleaning all the patriotic things. I will bring it to the human level, as Sam correctly said, humanize it, narrate to you, but when you come out of the cinema, again you come to the present, and present continues. And I see in the last shots the open-endingness of confronting the present coming out of the fable of Sriram. Thanks, Sriram, for
Thank you.
continuing your storytelling even into a different genre and giving us a very good film. Thank you for that.
I just want to, I think Manto was not from that particular college. It may be another college, because I would definitely have got his picture there.
Government College, Lahore.
I don't think so, but I'll check anyway. Thank you.
Thank you, both of you. And now I will ask Ajanta Sarkar to speak her remark about this film.
Nikhila, my points are already made by the others. And my goodness, what an honor it is, to be in the presence of such a fantastic director. I saw it very, very quickly this morning, because my student is still submitting her PhD thesis. But I wanted to be in this kya kehte hain, discussion. And my only, apart from what Sanjay said, I want to add, it reminded me of All Quiet on the Western Front. And of course, Freud's great meditations on mourning and melancholia. And thank you for having such a fantastic discussion. It's been just great listening to all of you. Thanks. And if Sriram sir wants to say something at some point, we're really dying to hear from him as well.
Now we will go to Pallavi, who has raised her hand. So Pallavi, please go ahead and please.
Thank you, Sriram sir, and for this great film, and Samvartha for your excellent commentary. We've had many a conversation, I think, about some of the themes of this film. I'm in academia, in American academia, and a month ago or so, I actually met a scholar whose work actually looks at combat film music in Hollywood. He's a music scholar by the name of Todd Decker, and I quickly skimmed through his book, but it struck me as, you know, the way I watched this film again yesterday was actually thinking through the exact opposite lens of Samvartas, which is not the silence but the music and the soundscape of the war film. Because a good war film, whatever we might consider as good, has often relied upon the sounds of war, right? Bombs exploding in the background, the sounds of guns, machinery, tanks, pounding their way through the landscape. And the scholars. Analysis said that it was the Vietnam War film that really transformed Hollywood film combat music into something that became much more emotional. You could even say influences from classical music. I mean, Apocalypse Now is the big one, but a lot of Saving Private Ryan also uses these very long, extended orchestral sequences. And he sees the Hollywood film as being transformed through how the Vietnam War was told, where the soldier finally becomes the focus of the story in a particular way, even as there are other films that still focus on war as strategy and action and so on. I feel like Hindi cinema has a very different legacy. In another interview somewhere, I remember you mentioning that a couple of your favorite Hindi films on war are Chetan Anand's Hakikat and Border. And to me, the soundscapes of both of those films seem very different from Ikkis. And I really wanted to think about what are some of the sound and musical choices you made for this film, apart from the silences, because I do think the silences are also important. But it's a dialectic of sorts, right? There's the sound, the dialogue, the music, and then the silence. And I feel like going back and forth from that is a real skill that I really appreciated with this film. And if you had something to add to that, I would be delighted to hear more of your choices, the choices that you made in making this film. And again, thank you for being here.
Thank you. But regarding the background music and soundscape, I mean, we did think about it all through. The whole idea was not to sort of make it rousing all the time kind of thing. Yet here and there we needed to, we needed to sort of, I mean, the thing is, my background music directors, when they saw the film, there were two of them, and they just they reacted with their heart. I said, just continue that thought in the music. You know, the other thing we have in our films is songs, which is which you will not get in any Hollywood movie. So there again, it's a double-edged sword. You know, sometimes you feel, okay, it's not required really, but there is that thing of an obligatory song that will get the trailers and you can make. So these are all I wouldn't say compromises. I would say the way we make a film here is, there's a certain amount of, you're trying to please a lot of people. And among that, you should be, of course, yourself, please yourself also. So,
Thank you.
Thank you, Pallavi, for your question and your remarks on the music, how the background score affects. Now we will go to Titiksha Gupta, who has raised her hand. Please go ahead, Titiksha.
Hi, thank you so much. Both Samvata sir and Sriram sir for like being here and for doing this discussion. I also like unfortunately missed this film when I came to the theaters, even though I really wanted to. Like I almost had a full-on fight with my father about going to the theater for this film, but like that's a different conversation. Um, I really agree with all the minute details that Samvarta sir has highlighted today. And I was also thinking about the goat cutting scene and how it sort of relates to the whole idea of war being a ritual, right? And a ritual that does not hold the same meaning as it did when it first came into existence, but because it has become a sort of ritual, sort of thing that you turn to instinctively, almost not thinking twice about like the consequences of it, the relevance of it, and just resorting to something just because you have gotten used to it. And like the social sort of plethora mentality has gotten used to thinking in that certain pathway, and therefore you just go through that without actually thinking of the consequences or the all the actual realities of actually following that ritual in the present context. So I think that that particular scene holds a lot of, like, symbolical meanings apart from what has been discussed already. I was also wondering how, like, this movie sort of makes the characters are sort of equalized in a way that, like, war becomes an equalizer and that death comes for everybody, and it does not see whether you are coming from somebody who can afford golf clubs or somebody who cannot even afford to have a lavish wedding. But in the same war field, there's also the aspect of caste which does not go away, and that is seen in the, again, the minutiae of, like, the senior officers calling you by terms like sahib, and things that reflect your caste hierarchies outside of the battlefield. So I was just wondering, about if, like, Raghavan sir could talk about, like, his sort of procedure of writing, when he, like, the thought process that went into, like, what to keep and what to let out so that it does not become too heavy on the screenplay, but also the idea of caste not being erased during war being reflected by the screenplay. So I would really
Yeah.
like to have your discussion on that.
So I mean, I disagree that it's caste. It is actually more the hierarchy in the thing. What happens is the ustad, the man who's come up from the ranks, who's not done a course like the IMA or the NDA and all that. They have a different enrollment system, and they are very good because they spend a lot of time, their experience on the field and so on. But when these boys come and join, they're coming in as officers. So they have to call them Saab, though, and they have to respect them, though the boys also need to sort of respect them and say everybody calls everybody else Saab. It's not to do with caste, it's more to do with some kind of what do you say, the army hierarchy, the way they speak and so on. So that's what I feel. What else were you asking me? I forgot something else you
Oh, I
asked.
was just thinking about the, like, if that, not that particular aspect, but caste in general, like, not getting erased by war. Yeah.
Sorry. My mom was
Yeah.
asking me something.
No, I was just asking about the, like, your ideas on caste in general, like, not getting erased by by the enormity of war. Like, yeah.
I didn't understand this exactly your question, but
So, yeah.
I wanted to talk about a couple of things like the goat sacrifice and things like that. Now they have these rituals and they also have these superstitions. The superstition is that the officer who can slice a goat in one stroke is like, okay, this guy is a good officer. If he hesitates or something, then it's considered a sort of not a good omen and things like that. And these are things that actually happen to Arun. So these are things he also sort of wrestling with in his own way. I mean, he knows there's a thing of people, do they take me seriously or not? So he has to win that respect. So it's all, I mean, the bulk of the film, what we have seen, is actually what really happened or what we were told has happened, including, for example, the photograph of Arun in Nisar's house. I mean, it's like a lot of people said, "Okay, how come? Why would he keep a photograph?" Actually, what happened is he actually had a photograph and he is kept for because, oh, this is a boy who I have to somewhere, something. So he's kept a photograph. Now, maybe the cinematic liberty is how big the photograph is from our camera point of view and so on. It may have been a much smaller photograph. So things like that. But largely, the main thing for us was, see, we are dealing with a boy who's a hero and he's been a hero for more than 5 decades now. And yet he had no idea he's a hero. I mean, he doesn't even, it's not even he wants to be a hero. He just wants to be there and be part of the action, so to say, like his father and his grandfather and so on. And whatever he did in the last couple of hours of his life was, I don't think he even knew a second before that he's going to be dead and then he's going to be remembered like that. So that's quite poignant. And the other man can see this guy's, Nisar can see it. The father would, of course, want his son to be alive. And they also told us, some of the officers we had met, they told us if he had survived, probably he would have been court-martialed also because he did disobey a direct order from a senior. So, and he's, in a sense, he could have been, but since it happened this way, there is the whole thing. We had a lot of conversations with a lot of people who survived, who are there, some of them are still there. Yeah.
Now I will go to Kartikeya. Please go ahead, Kartikeya.
I just wanted to comment on a couple of things. that really moved me. One was these characters of Madan and Nisar, and how they kind of came to somehow symbolize the two countries, with Madan being this elder 80-year-old, slightly elder person, and Nisar being slightly younger. I mean, somehow it mirrored the ethos of the two countries, and both are fighting, but both are also sharing this home. Um, so that, and then yeah, this interrogation of the idea of home when Madan goes to Sargoda to look for his childhood home. There are many little references where you I think the daughter says that he feels so much at home, and Jaideep's character says he is home.
Right,
And
right.
even at the end, after the story is told under the tree, they say कि चलो अब घर चलते हैं.
चल चलते हैं.
So this shared home, it reminded me of this moment in a in a Qawwali performance that happened in Bangalore, where Farid Ayaz, this Pakistani Qawwals from Karachi, who were originally from India, and they are invited to perform in Bangalore in 2009 or something, and they're singing Padharo Mare Des. And in the middle of the performance, they just say, which Des are we inviting you to? It is that undivided Des. Not India, not Pakistan, because when we are in Pakistan, they refer to us as Indians. And when we are in India, they refer to us as Pakistanis. So it is that undivided Des where we are inviting you to. And this is what even the film, I thought, was trying to do. It was referring to this shared, undivided home that is as much Madan's as it is Nisar's. And in that sense, um, mm, mm, yeah, just enabling this conversation that's not happening. And as Samvarta was also saying, this recurring theme of जंग लड़ना ही बंदा बनने का एक तरीका नहीं है. Just like pick up the pen and have that conversation, have that difficult conversation with your lover, which you're not being brave enough to have. Make that confession in Nisar's case, and in Arun's case, uh, go and make up with your friend who is not talking to you because you messed up.
Right.
So yeah, so that was really lovely.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Kartikeya. Your
If I may
wonderful
just
comment.
mention, I mean, Karthik, I'll take this liberty without your permission. Karthik is the nephew of Arun Khetarpal.
Sorry.
Karthik is the nephew of Arun Khetarpal.
Oh, I see. I didn't know that.
Oh, welcome to TFO, Kartikeya. We warmly welcome you, and thanks for joining with us. Now we'll go to Ananya, who wants to give her remark on this film.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Am I audible and visible to all of you?
Yes, you are.
Thank you. Thank you so much to Samvartha sir for joining and delivering that entire talk and discussion on the movie. So this was indeed my really first time watching the movie. And I have been a fan of war fiction, and much as in the movie, I was also attracted to the list of books, which I think, yes, Kieran presents now and then. So that is where one of my questions arises from to the director, Sriram Raghavan sir. This is an incredible honor to meet you from, I don't know, my home state in Assam. So this is like an opportunity I really couldn't see coming. So my first question to you will be, what kind of books or literary figures? I noticed Ernest Hemingway in the mention. So did you have any such prior inspiration to do the movie from authors, poets, and many other figures? And the second question will be on an essential one, because as many people have already mentioned, this was a heartfelt and also an emotional moment for me to see the Mindret sir in the crew, because this has been a really, really long time since I saw the actor in the movie. So what was your experience working with them for the time before they passed away, and also your experience hiring Agustin Nanda, who is really such a new face in the industry, and they got to play an important role next to such brilliant figures. So what was your journey like with these characters of different ages?
Well, you asked a lot of questions, but let me try and answer as briefly and succinctly as possible. So, regarding Dharamji, actually, when we came across this story, and it's a true story, I mean, whatever you're saying is true. And whatever liberties we have taken, there are a few liberties which I can talk about. But otherwise, when he heard the story, he deeply connected with the story. And he also is somebody who's got a lot of love for the people across the border, and they also love him back, and so on. You know, so he was very sort of he loved the story so much that, I mean, even though he was 88 or 89 when he was shooting it, and we were shooting all over, I mean, all over North India, in Amritsar and Chandigarh and Lucknow and so on. And it was quite a kind of a tiring shoot in that sense, but he used to be sporting, he used to come, and even though he used to be sometimes tired, when the camera goes on, he, being an actor of a certain kind of a legendary kind of a thing, he used to just sort of come alive when the camera goes on, you know. So that was fascinating. And Agastya, of course, is a young kid who's like, I mean, we used to really hammer him and train him, and he used to go and do all these. He had to go and do the NDA training, whatever the boys did there, he had to do a certain amount of that. Similarly with tanks and so on. So most of them, it was not the performance so much as being, you know. For Dharamji, it was being in a different way, and for Agastya, it was being that person in a different way. You know, it was not performance really. So that's what I wanted to avoid. And the girl giving him the book, I mean, I just felt that whenever there's a book in the film, it has to be a book that also, in its own way, a little bit makes a point, you know. So then it's fun. So I felt Hemingway's book, I mean, it's not a book everybody would read, and certainly not a book which Arun would have enjoyed probably reading it during the war. So we don't know whether he would have read it. He would have preferred some, you know, much more PG Woodhouse or something, you know. But I wanted that book. I had a choice of two books, but the other book was Papillon, which also had come out at that time, you know. So it was either Papillon or When Eight Bells Toll. So sorry, For Whom the Bells Toll. And so we chose that one.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir, for answering the questions. I just have one quick remark to address. And that was that just hit me during this discussion that I saw the cast of the young soldiers when they were training in the movie. So I saw a face, the person who wins the fight as the boxer when Arun Kidarbal just disguises under cover of having fallen sick. So that character somehow echoes somebody from the border of as if from the Chinese border or somebody who was there. So they stood out to me for some reason. So did you have any particular intention for having that character play a role in the movie?
No, he is very much an Indian guy. He's from the Northeast, and we actually wanted a mix of. See, when you look at the NTA, they have a complete mix of North, South, East, West. There are all kinds of boys who come there, you know. So we wanted. It's not like, you know, everyone is one kind of clean-cut Punjabi boy. It's not like that. It's like all kinds of boys. And of course, he's past the maximum. There's a certain height requirement they have, but he's above that and all that. And yeah, these guys can be tough also. So he wins the match. So,
Thank you. Thank you so much again. Thank you. This is an honor. Thanks again.
thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we will get to Professor Tarkeshwar. He's with us and he wants to say something. So please, Tarkeshwar sir, please come and speak something about this film.
Thank you. Thank you, Samarthan. Thank you, Sriram Raghavan, for the film. And I was initially, when I started watching, I thought it is another kind of nationalist, quote unquote nationalist movies. But as it progressed, then I was hooked on to it. Yes, some people are saying the word compromise that came up in the discussion. So I wouldn't agree with it. Yes, there will be different pulls and pressures, and how we handle it is very important. And these pulls and pressures also created a certain kind of complexity to the story in that sense. So it doesn't take any position, and it takes a very long shot, an historical shot. Though the story moves within the 1960s to 1970s to 30, 40 years,
Yeah.
but there is a comment on the war earlier too. So in that sense, there is a philosophy of war that gets discussed by the characters, but not like it is not like a superimposed on the dialogue or the narrative. It becomes part of the conversations. So in that sense, it takes a very long shot of the war and the both the necessity and futility of the war. So in that sense, it is not simply saying the wars are futile, because there's no point in saying it, because the wars have been happening. So in that sense, there is a futility to it, and it has been a necessity, and we have to be part of it, whether we like it or not, either for the in the name of nationalism or in the name of some other quote unquote issue. So in that sense, that complexity comes through the narrative. Uh, and it's a remark on the nationalism too, because nationalism is a recent entrant into this business of war, uh, not earlier. So in that sense, hardly 100 and 200 years, not more than that, the concept of nationalism and the war. So there are other contenders who were fueling the
ಹೆಂಚಿನ ಅವಸ್ಥೆ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಹೊಚ್ಚ ನೀರು ಏರ್ ಪ್ರೆಷರ್ ಆಯ್ತು.
Okay, sorry. So in that sense, there was a stringent comment on the nationalism without questioning it, because we are living in that system now. So we can't question it, and we need to accept it, and we need to participate in the war, and we know the futility of it, and within that we continue it. And again, this continuity comes when the new batch of NDA cadets enter the Hall of Fame and say, I will bring the next Paramveer check. So in that sense, this continues to go on, this tradition of, and then the other thing is about what others call as martyrdom. But there's not much difference between quote unquote martyrdom and then the quote unquote suicide. So the line between the two is very thin, and it also depends on where you are looking at it from. Whether it's a foolish act, whether it's a bravery act of bravery. So in that sense, that also comes out very well in the narrative. Thank you for this complex film. And then the contradictions that exist are necessary, because that's the narrative tone. It goes in a very, what I should say in Kannada, Manjugaddiya Tannaniya Shaili, the high school style, not making any bombastic statement either against it or for it. Very coolly narrating things, and the conversation also gets unfolded, except when the boys are together, and then there is an exuberance. Except that, otherwise the narrative moves in a very undertone in that sense. And I think that is the success of the narrative. Thank you very much, Samartha, for the suggestion, and also thanks to Sriram, Raghavan, and others. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Tarkeshwar, for your wonderful remark. Well, we are almost at the very end, but I have a very small remark here that in tribute
I
to.
have a question to ask later. You complete and then I'll.
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
but-
I mean, I was just trying to say that in tribute to a war hero, Second Lieutenant Arun Khetrapal, this particular film does a rare plea for peace and empathy. But at the very end of the film, we see a particular disclaimer that the Nisar's character इज एन एक्सेप्शन, ये एक अपवाद है। ये जेनेवा कंट उस
Right,
टाइम में
right.
जो लोग थे, ये पाकिस्तानी थे, वो इंडियंस के साथ बहुत खराब व्यवहार कर रहे थे, को जेनेवा कन्वेंशन की उल्लंघन कर रहे थे। दिस was not really to the human behavior. So this film particularly for the 2 hours and 14 minutes displaying the empathy, tries to speak for the kind of the humanness, but at the very last moment it contradicts to itself that is trying to portray in that moment. So as it's a fiction film, what is the point of like saying these two particular things as a like for the viewers, like what is the message behind it? I was trying to understand a bit because it's a privilege to have you in here, so this is the question for you, sir.
No, I spoke about it, but you have to think about it. I spoke about it here only a few minutes back. But you have to see if you, it's like this. You've seen the whole film. If the film works on you, the disclaimer won't. If the film doesn't work on you, the disclaimer will work. So it's like Andhadhun. You have to choose.
Okay, sir. Yeah, that was quite contradictory in its remark while we were saying this film. Yes, now Sambarto, what you want to speak?
Oh, okay. I mean, sir, I mean, Sriram sir, I mean, this is a question for you, I mean, which Paniraj already actually kind of voiced in a way. And but this is a question I've had from the moment from Jan first morning. Like, I mean, after making Ekasinati, I mean, Agent Vinod, Andhadhun, and even Merry Christmas, I mean, all which I loved so much. I mean, this really surprised me. Like, what actually kind of prompted this choice, and what was the preoccupation, which actually, I'm sure it came as a surprise to everyone. It's not to actually kind of doubt your sensibility or anything, but actually to, I mean, this choice actually kind of really. So, what prompted, what was going in your mind, and what were your preoccupations, which
No,
actually kind of said कि अब ये करना है.
No, it wasn't. I was in that office, my producer's office, for a different conversation. But when I heard the story, something about it resonated with me. Then I asked them, is anybody attached to this story? They said, not yet. Are you interested? So this was, I'm talking about in 2000, actually 2018, if you would believe. It's like a few years back. So then I said, yeah, I mean, I was still not finished Andhadhun. I had still got a Poland shoot to be done and all that. But I said, yeah, I like the story. And then after Andhadhun got over, I felt, I mean, I was working on Merry Christmas also, which is also a thriller. And this one, I just started doing research on this. I started meeting people. And I met a whole lot of army people. I met a whole lot of Arun's teammates from NDA. I mean, a lot of, including his tankmen. I met some of them. And so when you do all that, no, and I also went for for a wreath laying ceremony on Basanta Day on December 16th in Chandigarh. And somewhere I felt this boy's story is incomplete without his father's story also. And I found the whole thing very sort of, in spite of all the ugliness around us, there is something beautiful also which happens. So it sort of resonated with me like that.
Sorry, Madan's story was real, na? Madan Ketpal visiting
Everything is, yeah,
2001.
Mother's story is
Yeah.
real. Yeah.
We had seen another documentary. Can Nikhila, can you spell out that name? We also did see that film where army officer goes to Lahore and visits and all that. His daughter has come and
Bani's film.
Bani's,
Bani.
I've seen
Yeah.
that. Lovely film. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, lovely film. Shah Rukh Khan, he goes and meets a player called Shah Rukh.
Yeah. The hockey.
In fact, I requested her to lend me the film. I want to show it to my team. Bani's film, Tang. I showed it to
Yeah.
before we began shooting.
But we had discussed Tang in at TFO itself.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah, again, we had Barney with us then.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have not unfortunately met her after my release, but well, but she helped us a bit. She told me so much about the war.
In part, his 2001 reminds us that documentary.
Yeah.
But how did the army fraternity respond to Ikkis? Sriram sir.
I mean, I think the army in general loved the film, and but there was a lot of opposition to the film because of the climate and because of the various events of today. There was opposition, not from the army people so much. At least I don't know that, but largely the people I met. We had a show in Delhi for a lot of army officers and veterans and all that. And that was like they had tears in their eyes and so on. So that was it was largely very positive. And I think this kind of film, yeah, there are people who sort of spoke against it, probably without having seen it or not totally getting it, you know. So, I mean, yeah.
Oh, thank you. So, is there anyone who would like to have a question? Last question, maybe? This is a wonderful discussion of film, and this is a particularly wonderful discussion, and it is a privilege to have the director Sriram Raghavan. So, is there anyone who wants to speak? And this is because this film particularly just play for the piece in terms of what is needed at this very moment, and it just gives us that sense of belonging to this world, how we could approach to the world. So now it is the last question. If anyone here wants to speak, so I hope that there.
Only one is what is coming out of his head next.
What is my next film? Oh, the next film, I've got two subjects actually. So they are both racing. Which one will get completed first and convince me? So they choose me. I don't choose them so much.
Thank you, sir, for your process of even saying about the process, how you to do film. That's, of course, a privilege to hear from you. So I hope that this is the end of our discussion and no questions at this moment. So I want to thank you, every one of us who joined us tonight and waited for and participated here and joined in this discussion, especially Professor Nikhila and Professor Geeta Vishwanath, who has initiated the discussion, and the organizer of this TFO, and Professor Sambartha Sahil, who has led this discussion, and of course Sriram Raghavan sir, who has joined us and give us the honor and speak to him, and all of us who has joined here. Thank you so much for joining, and please remember this is a weekly program at this every time we do it at 9 p.m. So please join us, and we do make film screening, and we do film, not film screening, sorry, it's like film discussion on the film screening, and so we just have a great discussion on film. So please join us. Thank you so much to everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for
Thank
being
you.
here.
Thank you very much.
What a
Thank you,
wonderful
Sambarth.
session. Thank you.
Thank you. Good
Thank
night.
you.
Sir,
Good
thank you so much.
night.
Thank you.
Sambartha
Good
spoke the
night.
most, so he's really studied the film. So
I'm also going to teach the film, sir.
So have fun, and I hope to come for one more session. You let me know which films you're discussing. If I'm free, I'd definitely like to join in.
Oh,
Thank you. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, see you guys.
Good night.
Bye. Bye. Good night.
Bye.
Good night. Good night.